1. Hello and welcome to Art and the Word. I'm Nicole Georges and I am your paint guide for this session. This is an art appreciation class, not a professional class, as I am an amateur painter and I love art as a hobby, and I'm so happy to be able to share my passion with you. So today we're going to be doing something very interesting. We're actually only going to be using one paintbrush today, and we will be using some other tools that I will introduce you to in a moment. But we're going to be painting this beautiful galaxy today. I'm just going to try to get it a little closer so you can see, hopefully. And I got this idea off of YouTube artist Ryan O'Rourke, and he has a great YouTube channel called Stay Creative Painting. So you'll be able to go on Stay Creative Painting. You'll be able to see 10-minute paintings that he does, as well as more in-depth paintings. And this was one of his 10-minute ones, and I've sort of adapted it to make it a little easier for beginners. But Ryan O'Rourke, Stay Creative Painting, highly recommend him. So as you can see, we are doing a galaxy today, one of God's marvelous wonders. And because we call this session Art and the Word, we're going to get into the Word right now. So I have a little devotional that goes with our theme today, and we're going to be taking that from the Psalms. So I'll just get that up for you right now. We're reading from Psalms 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. Yet their voices go out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, God has pitched a tent for the sun. It is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. It rises at one end of the heavens and makes its circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. The law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The decrees of the Lord are firm, and all of them are righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb. By them your servant is warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Keep your servant also from willful sins. May they not rule over me. Then I will be blameless, innocent of great transgression. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Praise the Lord. We thank you, Lord, for your word, and we just pray for your blessing on this session as we use the talents, Father, that you have given to us. So this all hinges on that first verse. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. So let's get started. So what I've done for you today, in the interest of time, is I have already painted in the background, and for that you can use your biggest brush. So you just have, just use your biggest brush, get some black. I've got mine mixed in with a little bit of purple just to add a little bit more interest, but you can do pure black if you want, or black and blue, black and purple, pretty much anything you'd like to. Black and red even, if you want to add a little bit of depth to your black color. So you start off by painting your canvas black. And now what I've got is, I've got something interesting here to show you. Instead of paintbrushes, what I've done, and I've had a friend of mine who will also be teaching art appreciation for you. Her name is Joan, and she made these little scrunchies. And they're basically from, those shower scrubbers that everybody has, those body scrubbers. And she just cut some little sections of it. We just wrap them with some elastic, some rubber bands. And we've got dabbers. We've got little paint dabbers. And because of the design in the on the scrubber, it makes for an interesting texture when you use it in the paint. So we're going to be using these today. So if you've got one of these old body scrubbers at home, you can just cut them up, you just crunch them together, and as I said, you just attach You just put them together with a rubber band and you're good to go. So I'm going to be using about 2 or 3 of these because I'm going to be using both light paint and dark paint. And you don't want to use the one that you're using for the dark paint in your light paint or vice versa because the colors are going to get too muddy. So have about 2 or 3 of these around. And we're going to start off, I'll show you our color scheme today. Trying to get them all into my hand. We're going to have a touch of red. We're going to have some purple and some violet. We're going to be using a lot of white, so you will need a lot of white paint, and light blue. And I'll also be adding in a few touches of green, and I've got here some blue neon paint, but basically any sort of dark blue is good. So of course I always get these from the Dollarama, but if you've got an art store that happens to be maybe doing curbside service in your neighborhood or in your community, or maybe they're even open, you can get proper paints and higher quality acrylic paints from there. I also, for now, get my canvases from the Dollarama, from the dollar store. However, it is better to get them from an art store because those canvases will be what we call primed. They will already have sort of a coating on them that will allow your paint to go on a lot smoother. The ones from the Dollarama are not primed, so you usually have to paint over them, which is kind of using up your paint unnecessarily. So I don't even bother with that. I just go straight on, but you know, that's just me. But if you really want your paintings to be able to last a bit longer, it's good to go with one that's already been primed or toned, as they say. So we are going to get started. Make sure that you've got your water, because you will still need your water. And I've got one brush today that I'm going to be using to make our planets. Did you see the planets? Yeah, we've got planets. I have my little styrofoam trays that I use for my palette because I like to recycle. And we're going to get started with our light blue color today. That's going to be our color that sort of everything hinges off of. It's going to be our linchpin, if you like. I'm going to be using quite a bit of that, so about $1 size. I guess it depends on what the size of the dollar is in your area. So I'm going to dab this in. I'm going to take off the excess, because if you dab it with too much paint on it, then you're just going to end up with a blob, and that's not what we're looking for. We want that texture. We're going to start in the center, and we're going to go into sort of a diagonal shape, but we're going to start off right here. All right? And this is going to be sort of the center of our nebula, if you like. Now, I love the paintings and the pictures that we see of the galaxies. We're just going to move this right up into this corner. Just spread it out a little bit. Gonna get a bit more paint. Gonna come down here. Yeah, I was saying that I just love those pictures that we see of galaxies. You know, as we've got all of these rovers and satellites and things that are taking pictures as they travel through the universe, and it is just some of the most beautiful colors and just amazing images that come from those satellites. So my favorites are always the galaxies and the nebulas and things. So we're going to come over into this corner. We're going to put some color down here too. If it starts to get a little thick, like you can probably see I've got a bit of a blob here, don't worry, we will come back in with some other colors. But I'm going to just sort of take off a bit of paint. I don't want to go with too much blue, but I am going to kind of come up here as well and just do a bit of a dab. How was your week? I really hope that you enjoyed our first painting of our purple sunset. Was it purple? Yeah, it was purple sunset. And if you haven't had a chance to do that one yet, that's a great one to get started with. Mind you, this might actually be easier. So we're just going to come back around. You just want to have sort of an oval shape happening right here. I really hope that everybody is staying safe and following the guidelines for your area. All right, so I'm going to rest that down. The next color I'm going to go with is, I'm going to do sort of purple, and then I'm going to mix it with a little white to get violet. And as I mentioned, I'm going to swap out scrubbers. So I'm not going to use the same one that I did for the blue. I'm going to use a different one so that I don't get the colors muddy on my little dabber here. And of course, we've got to continue praying for our nation, praying for our countries, praying for the world, as we are still in the throes of this very terrible disease. But we know that our God has a plan, and it is always to His glory and for our good. So in the meantime, I hope that you are making good use of the time if you happen to be at home. So we're just going to come around. We're not going to cover over our blue, but we are going to sort of dab around it. Make good use of the time to pray and to seek His face, and also to spend that time with family. You know, parents, especially working parents, are always talking about how it's so hard to have that balance between family and work. And here now you have this opportunity where you can actually spend some good quality time with your kids. Might seem like it's a bit too much time, but you know, just being creative. And there's all sorts of advice and articles and things on how to make the best use of your time with your kids without going kind of, you know, batty. And I know it can be exhausting, so hopefully you're in a situation where you're kind of able to take turns looking after the children, or if not, finding ways to sort of keep them preoccupied so that you can get a break too, because you don't want to be all worn out and exhausted just before you have to head back into work. And that does seem to be coming sooner than later, okay, quote unquote getting back to normal. I don't think we will have what is we have traditionally recognized as normal. I think we are going to be always very cautious now about how we socialize and how we get together in large groups. I think that's going to be on everybody's mind, at least for a while. So we're going to keep on. Just dab, dab, dab. You want to have more purple around this little blue area here, because this is, like I said, the center of your nebula. It's also the central point of your painting. And this is pretty easy. It's pretty easy, and shouldn't take you maybe 45 minutes to an hour. You do want to allow some time for drying. I know it's probably not showing up very bright right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a touch of white to the purple, because I'd like to make a lighter shade of purple or violet. I'm going to come back in here. So this you might see more prominently. So I'd love to know what it is that you're doing with your time. And hopefully you are making good use of it. I know a lot of people are baking and cooking and eating. And I'm one of those. I'm guilty. Put on so much weight. But also trying to do some exercises at home as well. It's not the same as being in the gym, but you do what you gotta do, right? So I need a little bit more paint here. There we go. You can rinse these out using your water jug, or in my case, I use a yogurt tub for my water. There we go. Key thing to remember is right in here is where you want your concentration of color to be. And again, I'm just dabbing. You can use maybe like a sort of a serpentine formation, whatever you like. All right. The next thing that we are going to be doing is a touch of red, not much. Again, this is just about layering the colors as well. I'm just looking for a hint of red here. I'm actually going to mix it in with my violet colors so that it's not too prominent. I haven't seen many Galaxy paintings where red is sort of a dominant color. I see maybe some oranges and yellows. But maybe you can find one and you can post it there and let me see. I'm sure it must be a beautiful thing, a beautiful sight. Again, coming around here. I'm just dabbing it out. Just a few colors here and there. It's okay to leave some black because you do want your night sky to show up. At the end of this all, we're going to be making stars. That's going to be the messy part of our painting. So if you are planning to do this painting, I would suggest that you not be this dressed up, but you know, I don't mind. But you do want to have some sort of protection over your clothing and probably over your table too, if you're going to be doing this flat on a table. Okay, so we are now going to go with a bit of dark blue. White is actually going to be the last color that we add here. So I'm going back to my blue dauber, so that way I'm not mixing colors. Hope you're enjoying the music too. Hope it's loud enough that you can hear it. This is fun. I hope you think so too. And the last thing I'm going to do something a little bit different that I did not do in the original painting, but I'm going to just do a dab of green. And that's just because I love green. And I think it's going to add a little interesting, oh yeah, look at that. It's going to just add a little interesting touch here and there. Green is actually my favorite color. So you can see our sky is starting to come together. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to lay in our white, and that's going to be our dominant color. And we're also going to be using white and a bit of water for our stars. So I'll show you, if you remember, I did do stars in the last one, and I showed you how to do that, but So that's the technique we're going to be using, today. Now we're going to get our white. And I've got a blockage. Get our white. There we go. Make sure if you are going to reuse your daubas, or you're not going to have like one for every color, that you squeeze the water out. If not, you're going to end up with it will be too liquid, and it won't spread the way that you want it to. It will sort of take over your painting. So we're going to come into our center here. If I had the time, I would allow this to dry. So you can do that, allow it to dry, and then we're just going to come in and, so you see, like, I've got a little too much water, although I tried to squeeze it out. But that's okay, because I can just pick it up. And I can draw that out. The good thing with these type of paintings is that even if you do have a little bit too much water, you've not ruined your painting, because there's all these sort of gases and nebulous areas, clouds even, that you can now bring into your painting. So I'm just grabbing it and just transferring it to other places. And it's actually, as Bob Ross would say, you've got a happy little accident, because now I've got something very interesting happening here. I am going to just let this dry, and then I'll come back over and add some different colors on top of here, but I think it's going to be really interesting. Happy little accidents. We don't call things mistakes, because we learn from them, right? So, and we can make it work. So you don't have to bring out too much white once you've got your center, because we are going to put in the stars. So because I've got some water happening here, I'm just going to go back in over with some of the blue, just so we don't lose too much of that. And like I said, with acrylics, the good thing about it is if you do think you've made a mistake, is that you can always let it dry and cover it back. So don't be scared. So I've got a bit of a little nebula thing happening here. I'm going to add a bit of purple. Dab, dab, dab. And I'm just going to come in here and just sort of reclaim some of the area that little water splash took away. There we go. Every painting that you do is going to look different from the one that you've done before. It's just the nature of the thing. Our talents and our creativity comes out in different ways. So note, even though, like, for example, I've done this painting maybe a few months ago, this one is going to come out completely different. And that's okay, you know, that's your creativity at work. So even if you are following along with me or with some other teacher, and what you've come up with doesn't look exactly the way that they've done it. That's just your particular slant on things, right? That's just your particular perspective, your particular talent that's coming out. So don't beat yourself up about it. Okay. So I'm going to reclaim some of this little white area here, and then I'm going to take up some pure paint, pure white, and come back in, because you want this to be your brightest spot, right here in the center. There we go. So now it's time to make some stars. Now, it is best to use a stiff brush when you're doing that. I've got a little brush because I just don't want, I find this brush is easiest for me to use. Now what we're going to do is the same thing that caused my little water splash here, is I'm going to add some water to my white paint. So you want it to be a little bit runny, but not sopping wet. You just want it to, you want to be able to flick it like this. So I know that the spots are probably going to be too small for you to see right there, but what's happening is I'm creating sort of a little slurry here with my white. And it will take some experimenting to get the exact consistency that you want, so that you don't end up with big splotches, but you just want the little sprinkles. And just bring it all the way down. There are other ways to do this. You can, if you wanted to and had the patience, you could actually put this in with a very tiny paintbrush. It would take you forever, but you could do it that way if you wanted more control. Again, if you do this and you think that your spots are coming out a little too big, you can always come back in, cover it over, and do it again. And of course, because this is the night sky, you want to fill up your sky with stars. All I'm doing is I'm just flicking the very tips at about 5 to 6 inches away. Okay. So I've got some areas where it wasn't quite as tiny as I would like, so I'm just covering that over. Now you will need a little bit of black paint, because what we're going to do now is we're going to add in our planets. So for the purpose of the painting, and I'm not sure that it would show up, so I'm actually going to put in a purple planet, and that's hopefully so that you can see better. But you can use black, and I'm just going to, we're just going to have some planets that kind of are around our nebula area. So to do your planets, you can of course just draw a circle. If you're a little challenged with that, you can just do 2 half circles and join them together. And I'm going to put sort of a medium-sized planet right here. And then you can just pretty much put them in anywhere that you like. I'm just going to put in a small one here. I've also got sort of a black hole happening over here. So because I've got this little section here, it turned out more interesting than I planned. I'm going to see if I can put one in right there. So again, you do want to use black to put in your planets. I'm just using purple so that it could show up a little better. Hopefully you can see these. All right, so what you want to do now is you want to get your white, because we're going to sort of highlight our planets. We do need to let them kind of dry a little bit, so because if not, you're going to end up with sort of a mess and mud. So remember, when you are washing out your brush, not to leave your brush upside down in the water like this. I think I told you last class that that can cause the glue that's holding the top part of the brush to the handle to loosen out, and you don't want that to happen because then you lose your brush head. So always remember to just drain your brush, rinse out your brush, and then take it out of the water. Now, because I would like to give this a little bit more time, I'm just going to come back in here and just sort of play around with my nebula for a little bit. And you can use this time too to kind of fill in any areas that you think maybe you've got too much of red or too much of blue. You can just come back in and just add in some different colors to kind of break it up a little bit. We're almost finished, actually. Once we've highlighted our planets, you will be done. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed this, and that now you love nebulas as much as I do. more green because I just love green. There we go. All right. So the last step will be for us to rim our planets in the white, because we're showing the reflection of the nebula, because you always have to think about where's your light source and how is it relating to the objects that are in your painting. So for example, if you've got the sun this way, then you know that all of your objects on this side are going to be highlighted only on the left side. I guess that would be the left side. If your sun is coming from this way, everything's going to be highlighted on the right side. And it's the same for our nebula. Now with our nebula, it's emitting light both right and left. So we're going to have a rim of light here, a rim of light on the sides of our planet. So we're going to start by picking up a little bit of white, and we're just going to come back around the rim here. We're just going to bring that color in a little bit. I'm just going to bring it in here to show some shadowing. Same thing for this one. And this is the kind of painting that kids would also like to do. And it's very easy. You just make up the little dabbers for them and they're good to go. You don't bring the light all the way to the other side because, of course, this is the night side of your planets, right?